Welcome to the second lesson on chromatics. This time we're going to talk about context, because that is the secret that nobody talks about. That, we tend to use 5 notes if you're using the pentatonic scale or the major minor scale. Sometimes we use 7 notes. But every single note, if you're playing over a track, is about context. So it's going to sound weird or home with lower tension or really with high tension, like out completely, depending on what context you put it in. And so that's everything, and we don't think about that. Even a key is a context, right? If I'm in the key of C, right, and I play like this note, then that note is going to sound completely out of context, and that's why it's out. That's why we call it out. But if I play, in the key of C sharp, then the same note is suddenly, that's the simplest example of context, right? But the same thing goes when we're playing solos. And think about it like this, that the pentatonic scale is your safe zone. That's the safest tool to use because it doesn't have notes that sound really out. Sometimes a little bit, depending on where you use it. But let's say you're in the key of B, like we are here. You can go download this jam track I was playing over by clicking the link below here. And also on the same page, check out our new program on chromatics. But we're in the key of B. So let's say we have a B minor here. If I play the B minor pentatonic, very few notes are going to be unacceptable, right? It's gonna pretty good. It's okay, it's the 7th. It's not like, right? Now that's the root, pretty good. So it's pretty home, right? But all the notes that are not in the pentatonic sound pretty weird, right? But if I then take the B minor scale instead, it has 2 extra notes compared to the pentatonic. And these 2 extra notes are the 9th and the 6th. Which is a one. Actually, it's a flat 6 or a sharp 5. Right? But if you use them as passing tones, right, it sounds really beautiful. Also, this, the 9th, it might be out of what we hear, but the flat 9th is like torture, right? It's only 1 semitone above the root note. That's absolutely out. But it won't be out if you use chromatics, and that's what chromatics are. Chromatics is a context for which to play the notes, right? You have the context, for instance, of the minor pentatonic. On the high E string, it's the 7th fret and the 10th fret, the root note and the 3rd of the chord in the background, right? And the chromatics, in between, if we play them in a context, and the context is when you play an out note, we know that you're going somewhere with it, right? Like walking on fire, like fire walking, you're walking on hot coals, because the coals leave a little bit of ashes on top of them that you can't see. You actually have a little barrier between you and the hot 1,000-degree hot coals. But because you're walking over them, you won't burn your feet. But if you stand still for just 2-3 seconds, you're going to really feel the pain, and you're going to burn yourself. It's the exact same thing here. Keep walking, and every step will seem like, wow, it's pain-free, right? So in this little run here of 4 notes, we got the root note, and we got the 3rd, which is totally low tension, right? Then we got the 9th, right? And that's tension, but it's not like 3rd level tension, right? It's tension we like, right? But this is unacceptable. But if I use it in the context of da 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 da, like walking on coal, then I come out on the other side and we even like the experience. It's like, did I just play out notes there? No, I didn't. Because the context made sure that you understand where I'm going with that out note. And so it's tension, but it's cool tension. It's nice tension. I like it. Right? And so it becomes melodic and pleasurable to listen to. And that's the way to use every note. It's in a context. And that's why we use scales. Because the scales is a grid that fits the music in the background, right? The chords in the background. And by walking that grid, but using every other note in between, we make every other note sound really cool. because we know what we're doing. That's why we use scales, right? And so that's what chromatics are. But let me just give you a couple of examples of how you can use chromatics, because we think of it as, but it's not just a progression from one semitone to another, because we can put things in between. We can put one note in between, for instance. This is the pedal tone concept, where we say, okay, this note is home. This is low tension, for instance. In the case of B minor, you could take the note in the fifth of the B minor chord. Doesn't matter what it is. It just sounds home, right? It sounds like low tension. There's no right? Good. Okay, so it's in the 7th fret on the B string. The other note of the pentatonic is in the 10th fret. Right? And then I can, instead of just going right up and down chromatically between the two notes that sound good, I can use one of these notes as a pedal tone. Right? So I can play this in between the chromatic notes. Right? I can do it in the opposite. So I simply just play, instead of playing, I put a note in between, and that note is a home note. I can continue on the same string and reach for the 12th fret, which is the root again. Right? Really cool blues lick as well. If you go, and instead of just playing the note, you bend up to it from one whole step below. Right? 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 So let me just play 7, 8, 7, 9, 7, 10, 7, 11, and then 7, and then you put your two fingers, the 2nd and the 3rd, to support each other in the 10th and the 9th fret, and bend up to the 12th fret note. Right? Right? Also, you can do another thing. You can, for instance, let me just have that B minor in the background. You can go. We almost know that one. Right, I'm playing the 12th here on the high E string. Then I'm going down to the B string in the 12th fret and playing one semitone down, which is out. Right? But because I'm, context, we know what the ear knows what's coming. It sees or hears the system. Okay? Back to the 12th fret again on the high E string, and then 11-10 on the B. Up to the high E string again, 12th fret, and then 10-9. 9-8, 8-7, and you can go the other direction as well. 7-8, 7-9, 9-10, 10-11, 11. Right? So by using chromatics is not just semitone intervals up and down. It can be semitone intervals up and down, yes, but you can move stuff in semitone intervals, and it's still chromatics, because chromatics is a context and not a scale, right? It's an idea, right? Let me do something. If you want to play a little bit more out here, you can simply take anything chromatically out. Now we're out, right? But it's the 2nd level out. It's not totally. That's out, right? But this, right? Right? Just 5th up, you play 1 if you're interested, right? 7 on the B and 9. This is not that out. 9 on the E. Then pick the 7th again and slide it up and play the 10th. Pick the 8th and slide that up 1 semitone and play the 11th. And you can go from this place to that place. This is 2 places in the scale. right? So play around with it, use these concepts and have fun. And a really good idea is to do what I just did. Use your looper to just put down a single chord and then go to our website, click the link below here, and then download this jam track and start having some fun as the jam track is playing. That's the way to go. But of course, it doesn't necessarily sound like I just did here. But that's because I've been doing this. I've been taking a jam track and say, okay, I got this thing going. Right? Or, right? And then I'm practicing it a little bit and then putting on a jam track and then spending 15 minutes, 30 minutes just having fun with that concept alone. Moving it around. So, okay, how can I... Okay. Oh. Just coming up with stuff, playing a couple of notes, ending them, finding a cool note to bend, and just playing around with it like that. That's really such an effective way of practicing this. So have fun with it, go download the jam track, and I'll see you tomorrow, which is another session about how to play with intense emotion using notes. Because when we think about playing with emotion, we think about vibrato and bending and sliding and all kinds of, which is also a very huge part of playing with intense emotion. But we're going to talk about how to use the notes to really get some cool, melancholy, sentimental flavors to your playing. So stay tuned for that. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you're afraid to forget. And then I'll see you in the next session.